Hello, my name's Marc Rettig, and this is an excerpt of my virtual seminar for the UIE All You Can Learn Library called Good Gathering. It's called Good Gathering because for almost everyone, the long-term success of our work depends less on the ideas we have and more on the way we relate and create together. And so for that reason, I've been learning a lot about Good Gathering. Here is the outline of the whole hour. I hope you find these 10 minutes interesting and valuable. You can get access to the whole recording through the All You Can Learn library. Here's the URL for that. Feel free to shoot me questions and comments. Let me know if you're interested in training on these topics. And speaking of that, you can also register your interest at this URL here. Because we're going to be offering online and in-person training in the months to come. And this way you'll find out about it right away, but also you'll get on the list for the early adopter discount. Okay, let's get started. We pick up at a point where we're looking at a framework for learning about group gatherings and wondering what the knobs and dials are that we might use to adjust the way we participate in something together. Here's a grand question. How can we help our gatherings be less likely to fall into debate and more likely to take the road to generative dialogue? In a moment, I'm going to tell the story of a different kind of day, a different kind of gathering or conversation, and it'll have a bunch of methods in it that you might not have seen before. But anybody can go search for facilitation methods and pick up some tricks. But I'm interested in capacity building. If facilitation methods are like recipes in a cookbook, which are great and valuable and legitimate learning aids, how do we start thinking like a chef who combines ingredients and cooking methods to get the flavors and textures that really work for the meal? So I want to understand the flavors so we can create with them. And here's a little peek into that, as perspective. So there's so many reasons that we get people together. I'm leaving out things like celebrations and cultural rituals, just for life in organizations. This list of reasons to gather is certainly much longer than this slide shows. But some I'd say are transactional, like here's some information for you all, let's make a decision. Some are more relational, let's get to know the new team, let's decide how we're going to work together. And some are creative, let's come up with ideas, let's explore our options. The point isn't the list, it's the diversity. Because let's compare that diversity with the tools that we've got in our kit. How do we get together? Despite all those goals, the patterns we have for what happens in the room, well, that's a pretty short list. Meetings, where let's talk about it, or Joe is going to give a presentation, or maybe a series of presentations, so we're all up to speed. Hey, are there any questions? There's one reason, this is one reason for meeting overkill and meeting cynicism. We need to do X together, so let's have a meeting. Whatever X is, let's have a meeting. We don't have other options in our kit. And our options cluster into similar sort of dynamics. So think of a presentation. On the axis of possibilities for who contributes content, it's on the extreme end. One person's voice, one person's contribution. And that's not bad. It's exactly what we need sometimes, but it's limiting. And on another axis, who shapes the outcome, a presentation is also an extreme. It's mostly one person. Maybe the question and answer session is really great and really challenging and something interesting happens. That's about as participatory as a presentation gets. So if we put our other most common patterns on the map, there's a trend. Most meetings, most gatherings are controlled by one or a few people, and the dynamics are such that it's rare for a majority of the people there to have genuine influence on the outcome. In most organizations, we rely on presentations and meetings almost exclusively, and they're great when they're good, but too often they're not good. Brainstorms, they distribute content, of course, as does discussion, but it's our habit and our history to keep control over the proceedings and to retain power over the outcomes. So we've been curious, what's it like over here, where contribution of content is widely distributed and outcomes emerge through everyone's participation? I see this as potentially very valuable, and so we started trying this stuff. And it's certainly underexplored in the world of organization. So what's it like when we add things to our kit that live in that quadrant? So here's a summary question. We've been exploring this in projects in classrooms, and we're finding that rather than focus on particular methods, it helps us to tease things apart a little bit to get back to that thinking like a chef. And here's just a quick intro to that, which is the door for me to thinking like a chef of participation. Let's take let's get at this, by taking presentation example, and notice the credit to Keith McCandless and Henry Lipmanowitz, and I recommend the Liberating Structure site. Okay, presentation. It's a pattern for everybody hears and sees the same information simultaneously. And what's the invitation we make? That's one element of it. Well, I invite you to listen to me from start to finish. The way participation is structured is that the presenter speaks and everyone else listens. The way the group is configured is there's one person in front and everybody else together, one person separate. And the way you organize a space is the presenter stands in front and the audience all faces the presenter. And the way time is organized is almost all presentation. Maybe a little introduction, maybe some questions and answers at the end. So we're living this right now. Again, nothing wrong with this. This is the structure it is. Here's, let's see here. But let's contrast that with something that lives way up in that northeast quadrant. So I'll describe this very simple building block, something we use all the time in our work. It's called 1, 2, 4, all. And it comes from McCandless and Lipmanowitz. You can read more about it on the Liberating Structure site. So it builds on the insight that conversation between two people is the ancient building block of participation. It's the most natural, comfortable, and at the same time, most intimate tool in our kit. So what's that look like? 1, 2, 4, all. Everyone contributes. Key thoughts bubble up. So the invitation is like, well, what do you have to say about this? Let's give equal time and opportunity for everyone. Let's configure in different ways. Maybe think about it by yourself for a while. Then speak in pairs, then in foursomes, then the whole group. And let's be face-to-face. Let's be in small groups together before we speak as a whole room. And let's do this kind of quickly. 1 minute alone, 2 minutes in pairs, 4, and then 5. So here's how that works. This is a recipe card. I'll be showing a few of these through the rest of the presentation. So whatever's going on, this can be planned or unplanned. There's some question that matters to the group. So just make sure the question is clear and say, okay, pair up. And just talk about it, just have a discussion. And then at the end of a minute, pairs get with other pairs into foursomes, and they share and generate ideas together for a while. At the end of 2 minutes, or at the end of 4 minutes, you go, okay, what do the foursomes want to share with the whole room? And you allow time for that to happen. Maybe you capture on the wall, maybe you don't. So you can adjust the timing, you can adjust a lot of things about this. For smaller groups, you might just go 1, 2, all. We sometimes do 1, 3, all. But I hope you can see that by tweaking the elements that make up the method, we've gotten somewhere very different. And I can say it works like a charm. It's comfortable, We've done it with senior executives, we've done it with students, and it changes what happens in the room. It improves people's sense of inclusion. It makes room for shy people, for people who have English as a second language. It constrains the room for bullies. It works across languages, and it doesn't require really any facilitation skill other than whatever it takes to suggest it and kind of guide it along. So that's one small example, and we'll show some more of these kind of things as we go. That's the end of the excerpt, folks. The rest of the seminar shows more recipe cards, tells a story of more methods, and couches them in a longer story about a day of strategic conversation with a large group of people who have a lot at stake. And along the way, it shows an example of how we visually represent group participation plans and participation strategies. Thank you very much. Here's the key URLs again, the All You Can Learn library, how to reach me, how to get on the early adopter discount list for upcoming courses and training, and hey, our monthly newsletter. Thanks again.